Hey, Adam Savage from Tested in my cave with today's one-day build, which is a lamp. And not a super versatile lamp like these things I built a long time ago. Why are you flickering? No, today's lamp is a super custom job meant for a specific location to do one thing. So strap in, it's time for a hyper custom lamp. A lot of visitors to the cave, after being overwhelmed wears off after a few hours, start to ask me things like, what are your favorite things in this space? And this right here, this T-Rex skull, is one of my all-time favorite objects. This is a foam and resin model of Sue, the T-Rex dug up in the Dakotas, and I believe currently at the Field Museum. I was able to obtain this about 10 years ago, and it is such a surpassingly beautiful object and also kind of amazing to spend time thinking about what it's like to be this low on the food chain. But it's hanging here for a reason. I wanted it to have a pride of place in the shop above one of my other favorite objects, my pool table. See, you don't know this about me, but I spent a significant portion of my late teens and early 20s being very serious about the art of billiards. And I want this T-Rex skull to be the lamp for my pool table. And everything I've bought to achieve that has kind of sucked. So now it's time for me to make a custom one. And the first step of that is to make a cardboard template of the inside of the jaw, and that will determine the shape of my lamp. This right here is a store-bought, one of my failed attempts. It flickers. I'm not even going to subject you to how awful its flickering is. I'm just tossing it in the trash. So here is where my lamp is going to go. I don't want to see the light source from outside of the T-Rex skull. I just want the light to be emanating from it. And the jaw here, the lower jaw, hides that perfectly. It's nice and wide. It's like 8 inches wide at its narrowest point. But I'm going to need to cut a piece of wood that fits pretty closely in here, and that will be the body of my lamp. Now, making a template for that piece of wood is where a lot of people get flummoxed in a project like this. Like, how do you transfer the irregular shape of the middle of this jaw to this piece of cardboard? Well, I'm about to show you just how fast it can go, because it's a simpler process than you might imagine. So let's see here. First step is to cut some strips. You're basically going to use these strips to get close to the outside edge and then tape them together, and they will make your overall shape. You see what I'm saying now? How quickly that can go? All right, let's see here. So we'll start with that. And I can see that I need to cut that. All right, so that's our first strip. I'm gonna probably do it there. I'm gonna cut this edge a little bit. That's pretty good. Okay. I'm gonna hold these in that orient. That's where this gets that's where this can get a little bit tricky. Solving these problems is of course a little easier when you have a helper, but I also really like the challenge of figuring it out. Oh, much better, much better, much better. Great, and then there's 3. Okay, if I do that, that's level, and that gives me some drop downs of about 2 inches all the way around. Is that 2 inches? I'd actually say, yeah, 2 inches is a safe barrier, and I think, hang on, I gotta make a couple of marks. Great, I think I can cut there. And only there. I think that's fine. Oh yeah, maybe I'll just round that. Okay, cool. I think I've got it really close. I'm gonna tape it in tight so it can't move, because the last thing you want is for your template to change shape after you think you've got it locked. I only know to say that and to accommodate for it because I've done it. Beautiful, perfect, marvelous. That's my template. Normally, I'm going to use MDF as the main body of the lamp. Normally, I wouldn't use MDF because it creeps, it's not very stable, it doesn't have a lot of tensile strength, but for this build, it doesn't need it. It's actually being held in by the topography of the jaw itself, so MDF is fine, and then I don't waste a nice piece of plywood on this. So I'm going to first draw out my template, which isn't exactly the final shape I'm going to cut out. This is just my main guideline. So I think that I can... Actually, I need to make one mark here. Just a sec. Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. I want my back end of this to be orthogonal to the direction of the pool table. And the template doesn't reflect that. So here we're going to transfer that parallelness. Is that pretty good? Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. We'll double check that once we cut the piece of wood and adjust it as needed. Also, the actual borders of the lamp will not follow this exact contour. I don't need to work that hard. I'm just going to make them long, straight edges. It's going to be a long trapezoidal lamp. Yeah, I guess that will be one border. We're going to say a strip 31 inches. And this one will be 23 inches, 17. I might be able to get all of this out of this single piece. Right, and I can glue and screw it. Okay, so first things first is to cut this out. Yeah, all the way up to there. Okay, here we go. Oh, nice clean cut. Now the back side. Yeah, there we go. And that's that, yeah, okay. Now, we've cut the piece of wood out from our template. The first thing we do is we make sure it still fits and adjust where needed. And the answer is, looks freaking perfect. I'm really happy with that. You know, I'll need to put in a screw here or there to keep it in the jaw, but very little, in fact. Just, it's really pretty straightforward how well this is gonna sit in here. That's awesome, right? And that clears, that clears, that clears, that clears. Okay, cool. That's great. Great. And I need to transfer these lines to the other side. There's a lot of different ways I can do it, but the main way I'm doing it is by drilling little holes at the two apexes where the lines meet. And I should allow me to draw this same pattern on the other side, which will allow me to properly staple and glue the lamp depth together. So let's see here. That goes up like that. Like this. So now I'm gonna rip my 2-inch border all around here and staple it in place. And I'm gonna do it out of all this scrap MDF. These strips are everything that I need, but I cut the last chunk of MDF I had square, and that makes it way more useful the next time I need a little bit of MDF. First one up. It's 31 inches. There we go. I'm gonna leave that like that. This one, I do it like that. I think I'm gonna do this on the bandsaw. That way I can get my angled cuts. Okay, and there's this one. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, I cut that one a little high. I see. Okay, so if that goes to the inside of the line, which it does, that's the line. Oh, great. And that goes flush to there, which it does. Terrific. And this is on the inside of that line, all the way. And it is fabulous. That only leaves this bad boy, which, frankly, wants to sit kind of like this. Let's see if that mark happened. Oh, it did. Okay. I recognize that all sorts of different carpenters and makers will have all sorts of different techniques for achieving these angles, including chop saws and actual math, and those things are great. I work in a quicker and dirtier fashion, but there's no really wrong way to do. Well, there are plenty of wrong ways to do it, but there's no specific right way. Did that help? Did that comment help you at all? Hey, he's doing it different than I thought. All right. So now it's time to break out the 22 gauge pin nailer, Jen Schachter's favorite. Yeah. I was debating whether to use wood glue or crazy glue. Sorry, cyanoacrylate glue, and I'm gonna use cyanoacrylate glue. So I'm gonna glue this thing in piece by piece, and then I'm gonna staple it. And that's actually gonna be plenty stable enough for the kind of abuse this lamp will receive. Cyanoacrylate isn't cheating. In fact, CA glue has been a woodworker's secret weapon for decades. Jamie likes to use the thin stuff as a kind of quick and dirty varnish. I find that absolutely terrifying, but he gets great results. He's a braver man than I. You line up there, you line up there. Yep, yeah, yeah. And squarification. On the edge. Just double checking squarification on everything will make your life easier later. Okay. Gonna add a little bit of strength here on the joints. So now we do the back side. We do each piece individually from the back side. So right now I can see that I'm about 75 thou inside the black line. So when I do this line, I'm gonna go in a little bit so that I don't have any blow-throughs. And I'm gonna try and make sure I'm shooting super straight down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Let's see how many of those blew through. 2. Not bad. Not bad. I'm going to redo those 2. And this one. Great. And I'll pull those out. Okay. This one, as you can see, is a full like 3/16, maybe a little less inside the line. So I'm going to try and guesstimate that with my eyeball and get close. Let's see here. Oh, I missed 3. 1, 2, and 3. Perfect. Okay, this one right on the line. So I'm just gonna go all the way down it. Let's see here. 6. No blowouts. That is it. That's the main body of our lamp. The next step, and I probably should have done this step before nailing it, is to retest fit it into the Dinosaur. Perfect. Works great. Love it. Very happy. Good. Next steps. Need some diffusion.
Also, when we get to a good time-lapse section, I'm going to go run it.
It's almost like this is what I want as my diffusion. Oh, I guess I could do that. I guess I could tape that in. Yeah, I could totally do that. Okay, so let's see here. Let's make this, what's the prettiest angle on this? Sure. Okay, so. Okay. Terrific. That's a nice piece of diffusion. I'll use some aluminum tape on the edge to attach that. Now I need a reflection surface, which I'm going to use foam core for, right? Yeah. Perfect. Look at that. Nice and close. So I'm going to attach my lights to this bad boy. See, this is tempting. It's a nice, bright, RGB addressable LED kit, but I'm not sure. I don't like the spacing on them. They're a little too far apart. I think I'm gonna redound to my basic warm white. That's warm white. There we go. That's my baby. Cool. And, oh, it's even got a thing. Nice. All right. I thought 1.5 amps was enough of a power supply for a full strip of these, but no. I had to break out one of my 8 amp power supplies, which I'm sure is more than I need, but for here, it's just enough. All right, so now I'm going to attach these lights in an array here. Yeah. This is 12 volts, right? Yeah, DC 12 volts. Okay. It's kind of warm. Okay. That will come out the backside on. What's the underside? That's the underside. And so if that's the underside, that's the corner. Yeah, that is the corner I want this stuff to go through. So it's going to go here. Yeah. So these self-stick LED strips, man, they're amazing. They come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and at all sorts of different price points. Got to be careful. My local hardware store, when these first came out, was charging $10 a foot for them when you could buy them on Amazon for $1 a foot. If you work in film, you might be buying the color-balanced, non-flickering kind, which can actually run you a pretty penny because you don't want any flickering in film. But for the most part, these Amazon ones are just plenty of power and brightness. I have these on several pieces of furniture in my house. I'm not worrying too much here about being super precious about the spacing and what it looks like in the corners because my diffusion will take care of that. And I can keep on testing to make sure I haven't overbent the circuit. When you're doing lighting stuff, I can't stress enough that you want to be double checking your circuit constantly as you're building, because there's nothing worse than testing your circuit and then installing it and gluing it into your build only to find that it doesn't work. So at every stage you're about to add some level of complexity to your build, test your circuit, make sure it still works. It's the cost-benefit analysis of how long it's going to take you to troubleshoot the problem you're having versus troubleshooting it as you go. Now I'm going with a full roll of this because I want a lot of light, but you can cut these to any length you want. If you look closely here, yeah, we're cutting to a close-up here, you can see that there's this little mark every like 3 inches or so with a little scissor symbol and a couple of copper pads. Well, you can cut your LED strips to any length along that and solder your power to those 2 copper pads, and you can make it 6 inches long instead of 60 inches long, and it will draw commensurately less power. Double checking. This is also stunning for theater sets and film sets where you need a little light in a specific place. You see lots of cosplayers use these to light up their costumes. And there we go. We don't need these last 2 red wires. We can cut those, double check our circuit. Yeah, that's a nice amount of light. Okay, great. That being done, I need to drill a couple more holes in this thing for some of the later fitment. What I'm doing with these will become super clear. Okay. Now, remember how I said I wanted this thing to disappear? Well, the primary way I'm going to do that is with paint. I'm about to paint this whole thing jet black using just some primer. I know technically it's not a smart idea to paint electrical contacts, but I figure I hit it from the side enough and they're deep enough and the copper will wear that paint off when I plug stuff into it. Look, I think it's time we talk about what kind of build this is. There are the kind of builds you do at the pursuit of your aesthetic interest. There are the kind of jobs you do for clients who are paying you money to make something permanent and awesome. And then there are these kind of builds, which are the kind of builds you do quick and dirty for your space. This is way different than I would build this lamp if I was building it for a client. This is much more akin to a theater build than a client construction. So when you see me cutting all these corners, I'm cutting them because I don't care. I'm adding this as some functionality I want to have on the pool table that I can have an external power source, then plug it into the back of the dino's head. All right, put this guy back here, and he is also, okay, so that goes to the main power. And this guy comes around here and plugs in, yeah, like this. So then if he lives back here, right, that comes around, that comes through there. Okay, great. Let's clean up this wiring a bit. Put this guy on there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, it gets wrapped up around itself. Sometimes, if I have a build I know I want to do really well, but I'm still not sure about its final form factor, this will be an interim pass in a project. Like I'll do a super quick and dirty, really poorly built thing just to see the proof of concept, like does the light work? How do I like where the switch is and stuff like that. And then once I've like made those decisions, then I move on and remake it for real. Oh, okay, right. My attachment method, that's totally critical, but we're now okay in terms of, yeah, I don't think I need, I just think I need 1, 2, 3, 4, I think that's it. The king of all wires, baling wire. 1, 2, a 3. These are overly long, but that's way better than being overly short. So here's how this is gonna go. See, wire's gonna come through here and then come back up through here. And now I'm gonna wrap it around the tooth and hold on to it. You see what I'm saying? See, it's really straightforward. That's all the main mechanical connection and wiring. I think it's time to do the final assembly. I'm going to aid my reflectivity here with a little bit of aluminum tape. If you're like me, you like to get the most bang for your buck out of your photons, which means you don't want them just making one trip, you want them making many. That's why you use electrical tape, reflective tape, and then those photons move back around and do a lot more work for you. All right, so now we put the lights in. Awesome. Okay, we're gonna hold this in with a couple more T50 staples so that I could repair it and remove it if I needed to. Ooh, what's this? Yeah, I only just figured out this exists. This is a pneumatic stapler for T50 staples, like the kind you use to stretch a canvas or for upholstery work. Normally, these are applied using something like this, which I've been using for 40 years and only just looked up and see someone makes a pneumatic one. I'm never gonna work this hard again. Great. Okay, now I've got the lights in, I got the reflection in, I got the diffusion. Here comes the diffusion. And now I want to tape that on. Again, think theater, not retail. That's the kind of build this is. This is a theater build. It's funny because I remember at one point I built this set of shelves in my loft, it's like the early 90s, and I knew this rich guy, and he came over and he's like, "You built those shelves today?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Can you build some for me?" And I'm like, "No." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Because I'll accept this build quality and you won't, and I don't want to work that hard." There you go. That is a quick and dirty, I mean, we started this 2 hours ago. Quick and dirty pool table light. I'm about to install it. And we'll turn it on, see how much it turns us on. All right. This is the moment of truth. This is either the most fun part of the build or the point at which you realize you're not in the middle of Act 3, you are still in the middle of Act 2. Here we go. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Okay, I want that to come up. All right, I gotta come on over here. Baling wire. Honestly, you should just always have a couple hundred feet of baling wire sitting in your shop. It's just too useful to not. Moment of truth. Hey, dude, that's the pool table lamp I've wanted forever. And I can turn it on and off from here, which is great. And I've got a power strip that allows me to plug stuff in that I want to power up on the pool table for display. I've had computers up here and everything. All right. So there you have it. Our table is ready for a good game of pool. Hey!